Hey guys, and we're back for me to explain my solo adventures through South America. I know I'm really done up today, right? This is the Cali edition. I am not in front of my usual orange wall, but I'm all dressed up today, so I figured I might as well do a video. Shout out to my sister-in-law who did put these twists in for me. She does hair and she also does balloons, having a blast balloons, so you know, you might want to check her out just in case we have an event. But I wanted to make sure to continue my story so that you can get all the information possible and hopefully decide to go to South America yourself. So I already talked about Lima. I already talked about my time at the Paracas National Reserve, and now we're up to Huacachina. So now the best way to explain Huacachina, if you think about a movie, if you think about someone being lost in the desert, dehydrated, the sun in their face, right? And they're just like, oh, please, someone give me water. And now they're looking ahead in the desert and all of a sudden they see a mirage. That's Huacachina. It's a mirage. Basically, I think it looks really cool actually, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to go there, just because of the fact of that it's a natural lake in the middle of the desert. There's some whole like story behind the lake. Like, I don't even know really what the tale is, but I personally wouldn't touch the water. It looked a little dirty to me. But you could actually like get on these little like paddle boats in the lake if you wanted to. I decided not to do that, but I still think the whole concept of Huacachina is cool. There is a city that's not too far from there where people actually live. It's called Ica. So you can also go and explore that town as well if you want to do something more than just what Huacachina has to offer, because they just have a bunch of restaurants and the hostels. It's just a cool experience to look at it and really realize you're in the middle of the desert, but there's a lake with trees. But of course, where did I stay? I stayed at the Rover Hostel, which is a party hostel. When I tell you I had such a great time partying all night. There's not really much to do in Huacachina, so the hostel actually being the turn up was perfect. I stayed in a 8-person room. These were pod style beds. So if you are claustrophobic, this is not for you, because literally it was like a wooden coffin with a curtain in front of it. I enjoyed the privacy. And when they checked me in, the guy even said where my room was situated, there's a party inside and there's a party outside. So I was gonna have sound from both directions. So I guess being in a coffin style bed made it beneficial so that I was able to sleep, but I could sleep through anything, so it didn't really bother me. I knew what I was paying for. It was a party hostel. They warn you as you book. But so I thought the room was okay. Had a light, had a shelf, and the room wasn't even fully booked. Had our own private bathroom. Yeah, it was like 3 stories, the hostel. So it was definitely a lot of people there.
That's so fast.
The pool there.
That looks good. I actually enjoyed the hostel. Wild Rover is a great place to stay if you're trying to look for a good time. But the 2 things to really do in Huacachina were to explore, walk around in the circle, and ride on the sand dunes, right? So you get to actually pay for this tour, which is not that expensive. I think it was only like $15, but you basically climb up these sand dunes, get into this like Mad Max style car. Our driver was actually kind of old, and he literally just rides you up and down these sand dunes through the desert.
That's incredible.
Then you get to sandboard.
Beautiful. Okay, a pose, come on. There you go.
It was a little nervous because the sand dunes are kind of high, but it was an amazing time. Some people tried to actually go down like as if they were snowboarding. I've snowboarded in the past. I would have loved to have done that. However, I didn't want to kill myself. And I feel like sand probably would hurt a lot more than snow. So I decided not to do that. We got to watch the sunset in the sand dunes, and it was just really I mean, that's probably the only thing you can really do there. So if you're planning on going to Huacachina just for the experience, then of course you have to book the sand dunes and go sandboarding. Don't be afraid. It was a good time. After that, we pretty much chilled at the hostel because we watched the sunset. It was hot as fuck. Like, think about being in the middle of the desert and it's sunny. Like, it probably was about a good 80, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Right? From America, it's Fahrenheit. But it was extremely hot. So when you go back to the hostel and they have a pool, believe me, you need it. The food at the hostel was pretty good. I had like a veggie burger, like this quinoa something burger or whatever. Happy hour is always a plus, right? I told you I only like to book hostels that have a happy hour because that's the best place to kind of meet people. And the drinks are really cheap. So if it was 2 for $1 and it was converted to about like $5 American, you really can't beat that. They also had this traffic light party that night. So it was like red, green, and yellow. If you were single, you put green face paint on. If you were taken, red. And if it was complicated, you put yellow. I put all the colors because who cares? I actually painted some people's faces just because I was just trying to have a good time. Wild Rover definitely wants you to dance on the bar. So there was a lot of bar dancing.
One fucking Rover!
Yeah, if you want to party, that's where to go. And Wild Rover has a few locations throughout South America. So the more Wild Rovers you stay at, the more free things you get. I only stayed in Huacachina for a night because like I mentioned before, when you book your Peru Hop ticket, you have an itinerary and they take you around Peru. So Huacachina was only for 1 night. If you wanted to stay longer than that, you could have. You just had to let your guides know. But I needed to move on because I had other countries to go to. So after Huacachina, the bus picks you up in the afternoon and they take you to a Pisco wine tour. So like I mentioned before, Pisco is the liquor that is made in Peru and also in Chile, but it depends on who you think is better. They showed you how to make it. And the guide that actually explained the process she was hilarious.
Sweet and semi-dry wines. But for us, each one is different. Probably for you, all of them will be the same. And remember, we don't add sugar. That's thanks to the weather that we have.
She talked about basically how they smashed the grapes and how it went into this other room and then fermented it and then let it sit in the sun, all this different stuff. And she cracked a ton of jokes.
George, what are you doing outside? What are you doing outside? Comes inside. Cheers.
And talked about the differences in the wine and how like one wine is the divorce wine. No, one wine was the marriage wine because it's sweet in the beginning and bitter at the end. So that was actually a good experience. Got to taste all different types of Pisco, and who doesn't like to taste a bunch of fruity liquor, right? And that was actually included in your Peru Hop ticket. After that, we had our long bus trip to go towards the Nazca lines. Honestly, the Nazca lines to me weren't anything. I mean, they're cool. I think they're cool because been able to maintain their structure for so long. You know, no one really fully knows how they got there. They kind of do. So I think it's the mystery of it that makes it really cool. But to actually like look at them, I was kind of like, okay. And then you continue on to Arequipa. I did not stay in Arequipa. We just dropped some people off and picked them up. And then I took my overnight bus. I was on the bus for probably like a day and a half to Cusco. That was the worst decision I probably could have made. One, I get motion sickness. Two, who wants to be on a bus for a day and a half? We made like 2 other stops on our way to Cusco. We stopped at this lake. It's like, has a very high altitude. It was a nice view. And they had a few people that were selling these like alpaca sweaters, which I found out my sweater that I purchased, it was not real alpaca, because someone told me that because it was colorful means that it wasn't real. The real ones are very bland. Well, I like colors, so oh well. And then we stopped at this restaurant in this town. The food actually was pretty good. That you did have to pay for. That was not included in your ticket. And it was a nice little village. You saw kids playing by like this railroad tracks and by this lake and stuff. So you do make a couple stops even though you're on the bus for a day and a half. Cusco is at a high altitude. So I really had to be prepared for that because a lot of people get altitude sickness. So there are these leaves that you can buy and suck on basically to help you with the altitude sickness, because I wanted to go the natural route. I didn't want to buy the pills to help you with that. So these are cocoa leaves that you can purchase. I purchased them on the way to Arequipa, and they're pretty much the leaves that people make cocaine out of. Yeah. So if you suck on them too much and possibly go home and get drug tested, you might test positive for cocaine. That's supposedly what I was told. But I was gone for a month, so who cares? But they actually did work. While I was on the bus for that long on my way up, I actually did like suck on them to ease my nauseousness. The only downside to the Peru Hop bus, right, is that you can only do number 1. You can't do number 2. So I have a very weak stomach. So I was very nervous that I was going to be on this bus forever and needed to use the bathroom and could not. And I did have one time where I got extremely nauseous and I was like, please get me off this bus. We were picking up some people and I was like, look, I need to find a bathroom somewhere because I will not make it, right? But after that, I was okay. I was okay. But overall, it was okay. I'm glad I still used Peru Hop to get there instead of just flying, because I got to build relationships and I got to see a good amount of stuff through Peru as well. It's definitely more to come. There is more of an adventure and I can't wait to show you. So please subscribe, like, follow, all that good stuff. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything, please leave that down below as well. So hopefully you stay tuned and you're enjoying my Peru trip so far. And yeah, Cusco is next. Oh, I went to Machu Picchu. I did so many things. Can't wait to share.